Yo, 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 it's me, D Delta. What's up? Guys, have you ever wondered what happens when you have a baby unwillingly? Do some stupid stuff, but then you end up being child support. No, you'd never wonder that? Okay, that's understandable, because it's not a human occurrence. Usually we pay the child support. We don't end up being that. But you know what creature does? There are actually a few, including seahorses. You guys want to see what I mean? Probably do. Casual Geographic. Let's go. Let's go ahead and check this out, guys.
Are fathers really that necessary? You know, it's crazy we can even ask a question like that.
Sometimes.
You want to know how important father figures actually are? Studies done in South Africa found that without the presence of older, mature bull elephants, the younger bachelor males were more likely to exhibit aggressive, destructive, and straight-up menace behavior.
Makes sense.
Escalating all the way to them projecting their daddy issues on the south side of a rhino.
Nasty.
And it wasn't until more seasoned bulls were brought back in that the rhino-centric assaults decreased. And even though with humans the stakes don't usually involve a rhino's rectum, subtracting fathers from a population can be just as problematic. I'm not going to list all the ways because then we'll be here forever. Just know that a majority of the prison population wouldn't even be there in the first place if their fathers had come home from getting milk. Unless you're an athlete, in which case it's just a buff to your greatness.
And their fathers probably would have gotten home from getting milk if they weren't arrested in the first place. Leads into a cycle. It's all intentional, guys.
There are many fathers in nature that are just as important, and seahorses
hate the system.
aren't really one of them. We call seahorses amazing fathers, and really all they do is spunk out new recruits to the census from their midsection. It's really no different than what every 14-year-old does the moment they discover incognito. Except with them, their swimmers aren't undercooked. And I'm sorry if that ruins seahorses for you. No, actually, I'm sorry. So sorry, in fact, that with the help of ChatGPT, I'm going to genuinely questions like actual AI prompts. With their attention span has eroded to the point where you'd rather mop a beach than read more than one page at a time. One of these AI tools lets you shorten a long read into more digestible chunks. And so much more. If you get Opera using the link in the description, you can also create a pinboard of thousands of wallpapers for sponsoring this video. But in all seriousness, yes, seahorses are the only fathers that give birth, and they do so after 6 weeks of incubating his brood of up to and over 1,000 babies in his belly. Now add in the fact that seahorses will often mate for life and reinforce their pair bond with a synchronized dance, and Stevie Wonder can see how seahorses got their reputation of being the best fathers in the animal kingdom. Except the male seahorse will occasionally cannibalize a small percentage of the kids he pops out. And while it's true a baby seahorse is called a fry, Papa Seahorse acts a little too accordingly by turning his unluckiest children into an infinite food hack. Not enough to truly threaten the survival of the next generation, but just enough for me to confidently say you can find about 10 better fathers in nature. Like, for example, the fox. Like the seahorse, the red fox is often monogamous, meaning that one Spider-Verse line can easily apply to them too. At first, Father Fox has a full-time job bringing back food to his partner whose Spider-Verse line can easily apply to them too. At first, Father Fox has a full-time job bringing back food to his partner who stays home with the kids. But as they get older, that's when the tough love starts. Once the foxlets start getting bigger and more capable, their dad starts showing up with less and less food. Instead, he'll start burying the extra food near their den and even cover it up with twigs and brush in order to teach his kids how to be more independent and find it themselves. And that's not the only life lesson served by Father Fox. Because in an area where foxes were getting murked by coyotes, researchers noticed male foxes playing with their kids by chasing and ambushing them. Almost like they were trying to teach the next generation how to avoid predators. And speaking of coyotes, you'll find that there are some W dads too. Coyotes are just as loyal, and sometimes even death doesn't make them find a new mate. Coyote couples typically hunt together, but as scavengers who will often finesse food from much bigger threats like wolves and bears, it's usually the male that'll stake out a possible bounty first while his mate watches from a safe distance. That way, if worse comes to worse and he gets put on a shirt, his mate still has a chance to raise their children as a single mother. You wouldn't see a seahorse do that. And honestly, wild canids in general kind of break the rule of male mammals being more of a deadbeat than a roadside raccoon. Father wolves are just as overprotective as you'd expect. Here, you can see a father wolf harassing a black bear and trying to get it to chase him after the bear wandered and got too close to his pups hidden near some trees. And African wild dogs will actually let the pups feed first rather than have the most alpha male get first serves and have everyone else fall in line. They've also been known to spend days looking for any lost pups, but the gold standard of dog fathers would have to be the golden jackal. They're another couple that takes till death seriously, and like with coyotes, they'll often go grocery shopping together. And when his partner's pregnant, Father Jackal digs a burrow for his mate to rest in, and he'll defend that den with his life if it gets to that point. And once the pups are born, the male jackal will go to any lengths to find enough food, even if it means squaring up with wild boars or stealing food from right under the nose of tigers or wolves.
Whoa.
And even though he risks everything for food, most of what he eats just gets regurgitated back at the den for his kids. They're top tier dads, because if anything ever happened to the male jackal, there's a good chance the mother wouldn't be able to keep the kids alive on her own. So yeah, wild dogs seem to mostly beat the deadbeat dad allegations, but at least they have a partner they can count on. Meanwhile, the great value ostrich of the Andes has to hard carry the whole bloodline by himself. The Rhea is a player who runs game on up to 10 females who all take turns dropping eggs in his nest. That's about as far as Mother Rheas contribute, as they leave the male to look after the massive family by himself. Daddy Rhea will even live off a quarter of the food he normally would, since he'd rather starve than leave his nest of up to 60 eggs unsupervised for too long. Being a stay-at-home single father only gets more difficult after they hatch, where Latin Big Bird acts as their bodyguard, while also teaching his class of chicks where to find food and where to best avoid becoming it. All while his baby moms try out every flavor of male like samples at a mall, because female Rheas are for the whole prairie. But I'm pretty sure the father Rhea likes it that way, since once the eggs are laid, he'll chase off anything with a pulse that even looks at them the wrong way, even if anything includes an amorous female. Daddy Rhea puts his actually that sounds kind of gross. Father Rhea puts his kids first, but he's not the only member of the rat type family that does. Cassowaries are like if nature engineered an animal with the sole goal of f***ing with my sanity. But even this Jurassic drumstick finds time to be an S-tier father. Female cassowaries also social distance from their eggs and children, leaving
Cassowaries are featured in the Total Drama Island episode 9. Was it 9 or 8? It was one of those two. Total Drama Island reaction series. It's inside the page. It's in my Patreon. Link in the description. Go check it out.
the parenting all up to the male. And even though cassowaries are actually really shy and would rather run from smoke than to it, a male will turn it up to 100 if his children are involved. And just like his cousin the Rhea, the blueberry flavored paralysis chicken spends 9 months raising his clutch of chicks, teaching them how to survive until they can successfully do it on their own. In fact, cassowaries are such devoted dads that the whole reason we call them the most dangerous bird in the world is likely because of the lengths we've seen them go to protect their children. In 2012, a photographer was charged and yeeted off a cliff by a hostile cassowary that I am now willing to bet had some kids in the area. But considering both them and Rheas have to carry the well-being of their entire family on their backs, I don't blame them for lashing out. The giant water bug does the same thing, except with them, it gets ridiculously literal. Water bugs will lay their eggs above the water, and it's the male that stands guard and defends them against risks to minor safety, which includes scaring off other females that would easily turn his pride and joy into protein powder. There's even one type of water bug that'll physically carry up to 150 eggs all on his back. With his future progeny glued to him, the male water bug is stuck like that for weeks, while his mate gets to go out and act like a free agent switching teams and looks for a new male to dump dependence on. In this time, the father water bug can't fly, can't eat as much, he has to constantly climb up to the surface to let his eggs get air, and he's a much easier target for predators. But at least with him, the back-breaking labor of being a father ends the moment they hatch. I'm sure there's a certain crocodilian that wishes it was that easy. You probably wouldn't expect a cold-blooded predatory sledgehammer to have a section in a video about great fathers. If that were true, this picture wouldn't exist. This is a male gharial acting as a sentient school bus for about 100 of his kids. Normally, croc miners ride shotgun inside their parents' jaws, but armed with a mouthpiece designed for griefing fish, instead they choose to be on water bug timing. Just like the Rhea, the guy gharial flexes a whole harem of females as procreation partners, and he gets to be the one to play one-man daycare as he guards them all. He might not be close to the single father the Rhea, cassowary, and water bug are, since his mates don't go out for milk indefinitely, but gharials might be the most unexpected animal on here. And right there with him are frogs. For example, the smooth guardian frog, that's his name by the way, I'm not making that up, he flexes his parental prowess by being the one to stay with the eggs and guard them after his mate lays them into the ground. And after almost 2 weeks of waiting, he's the one that carries the tadpoles on his back after they hatch, and he's the one that finds a nice pool for his brood to finish developing in. And it's not like he just dumps them in the first source of water he finds. Nah, not only are they particular about where and what they put their tadpoles in, the father will even equally divide his children between pools if he can.
I like them just wiggling around on his back. Like
where and what they put their tadpoles in, the father will even equally divide his children between pools if he can. Like if he's carrying 20 tadpoles, he'll put 10 in one pool, 10 in the other. They're not the only frogs that take a cue from Dom Toretto and put family first. The giant African bullfrog can have not hundreds, but thousands of little ankle biters in a breeding season, and it's the dad that looks after them all. And for almost a month, he defends them like a slimy, water-loving pit bull, biting anything that even looks like a threat. Yeah, they have teeth by the way. He'll even go out of his way to dig a canal to a bigger pond if he notices that the one his kids are swimming in starts to dry up. They're solid fathers, although admittedly they can resort to seahorse behavior by eating some of the kids he was guarding. But then again, cannibalism is kind of what frogs do. Darwin's frog will also eat his own children, but with them, they have a process. After his girl lays and leaves, once again, he's the one that sits with them and waits for them to start moving. Once they do, instead of backpacking his family, Darwin's frog takes it a step further by swallowing the eggs, letting them develop in his vocal sacs. And when they're ready, he delivers them to the world by puking his progeny out. And depending on how you define birth, you can argue that seahorses aren't the only fathers that qualify for paternity leave. They're definitely not the only fish. Another unlikely superhero father is a type of fish known as the stickleback. It starts with the male stickleback creating a nest for his females to lay their eggs in, and he holds the nest together using a special glue formed by his kidneys. That stuff isn't exactly easy to make, and the stronger the current of the river he's in, the more kidney glue he has to use in his house. And sometimes the cost of making his own product means he dies soon after spawning. But the ones that don't get Mufasa'd in the process revolve their entire lives around their families. They constantly have to chase off jealous rivals, and he'll spend most of the day fanning his clutch of eggs so that they can get enough oxygen while also washing away parasites and waste. And he'll even go as far as guarding the fry up to a week after they hatch. And he's not the only fish that's known for playing Mr. Mom. The common goby often raises hundreds of eggs by himself, the same way the stickleback does. Except the goby's also likely to eat the eggs that take the longest to hatch, just so he can dive back into the dating pool sooner, so maybe seahorses aren't that bad. But if you're looking for a father that you can trust with 100% of your children, we gotta talk monkeys. With golden lion tamarins, it really does take a village to raise a baby, and nobody takes more of a role than the father. Because he's the one that grooms, plays with, and carries his kid around. In fact, the only time he leaves them with the mother is so they can nurse, and even then, he takes them right back. Not only that, but he'll even act as a midwife during birth, as the father will help clean the baby fresh out the womb and even bite off the umbilical cord. And it's far from just them. Owl monkeys also have the father as the de facto parent, with the mom only carrying around the infant for the first week. And now we know why. Mother marmosets like the golden tamarin often have to pop out twins that add up to 25% of her body weight. Birth is not a fun process, and it's now believed that the physical toll it takes on the mother is why the males are the ones that take the lead in parenting. Meaning, marmosets are the only other animals that figured out the concept of maternity leave.
Guys, I want you to imagine that for a second. An average woman is anywhere from 110 to 150 pounds. That means that they're pumping out 30-pound babies in proportion, in comparison, because obviously these tamarins are very small, but their babies are a quarter of their body weight. They're also very small, but they're big to them.
There's also the fact that males literally put their families first. You see, the thing is, with most male mammals, an ovulating female instantly triggers a rise in testosterone. It's why those same male mammals are often good at making babies, not so much raising them. But a study showed that while single mateless marmosets reacted strongly to pheromones from females, the spoken-for father marmosets really couldn't care less. So not only are they devoted fathers, they're also loyal enough husbands to reject any females for their family's sake. Some humans can't relate to that. And we never thought a tiger could either, but this one managed to change a lot of what we thought we knew about them. P243 was a male tiger in an Indian reserve who confused scientists by single-handedly raising 4 cubs after his mate and baby mother passed tense. He'd share his kills with them, seemingly patrol the cubs' territory for danger. There was even a time where he brought down a whole cow, but didn't take any for himself and instead left it all for his cubs. And even though at this time he was an eligible bachelor, for a while it seemed like 243 was actively rejecting the advances of females just to keep his cubs a priority. This flew in the face of everything we originally thought about male tigers being just as deadbeat as their prey. And there's a good chance this wasn't just an exception. There was another case where a male named T25 was caught playing protector for a pair of orphan cubs that weren't even his. So there's a solid chance that we got it all wrong and that tiger dads are just as capable of stepping up. Just like some birds. Because when a mother kestrel got bambied by some owls, it was the father kestrel that went on to carry the family. And unlike the rhea, kestrel males don't typically look after their chicks. They usually just provide food, but it seemed that the widower knew that wouldn't be enough. The males slowly but surely started doing all the things the mother would have. Brooding them, feeding them, keeping them warm, and even tearing up the food he brought into tiny pieces the weeks-old chicks could eat. Keep in mind, he wasn't good at it at first, and researchers genuinely wondered if he'd be able to pull through for them. In fact, it took a couple tries for him to realize that his chicks wouldn't eat if he didn't do the bird equivalent of cutting up their food for them. But that's the thing, it didn't come naturally, and he still kept trying for his chicks, and he still managed to raise them. But there is no animal that does more for his chick than the last animal in this video. Be honest, you knew there was no way emperor penguins wouldn't get mentioned in a video about fathers, and it's because
the king, the freaking king. That's why they call him the emperor, okay? Bro, of course you gotta include the emperor penguin. They are famous. We learn about them sitting on their eggs, protecting them, and not moving from that freaking spot. Eating, sleeping, breathing. Of course you're gonna breathe, but anyway, from We learn about that when we're in elementary school. Everybody knows about these guys. Even I remember learning about him in my little baby science class and saying, "Wow, he just doesn't move."
Male emperors have to spend 2 months straight alone with their egg. That's 2 months of complete darkness while tanking -40 degrees Fahrenheit and getting smacked by 120-mile-per-hour winds. So cold that if the father happens to fumble the egg onto the ground, it takes less than a minute for the chick inside to enter the gulag. The margin for error is so small that for the 2 months of ice-chilled, sun-deprived hell, the penguin dad barely moves at all since the entire time he's balancing the egg on his feet. And when the egg finally hatches, the fasting father feeds his baby with a crop milk made from a gland in his throat, making him only one of 3 birds that uses crop milk. It isn't until the mom finally returns from sea that they switch off and the father can finally feed himself.
Yay.
But by the time he waddles all the way to the breeding ground, pulls a female, does a 2-month mannequin challenge in Satan's icebox, gets relieved by the mother, and waddles back to sea, it's been a good 4 months since he's eaten anything, during which he loses almost half of his body weight in the process. It's like when 50 Cent nearly became a hashtag for a movie I guarantee none of you actually watched. I know I didn't. And that's just 50 Cent nearly became a hashtag for a movie I guarantee none of you actually watched. I know I didn't. And that's assuming his mate does come back and doesn't get put on a milk carton while out fishing. At the end of the day, Emperor Penguin Dads get griefed by every force of nature, all for their little gray baby face tap dancing mini him. And because of all that, I think it's fair to say Emperor Penguin Dads are the goats of fatherhood. But that's gonna do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you drink water, hug your mother. Shout out to all the fathers out there for real. Y'all really don't get enough credit. So if you have a father, let him know you appreciate him. Don't wait for a calendar or Instagram to tell you to. And if you don't have a father, my condolences. I know today's probably not the best for you. Just try to take care of yourself. And if you don't have a father or a mother, damn, okay, Batman, who are your ops? May you turn all that character development into something positive. Just know, you better have a banging college essay. Shout out to Opera for sponsoring this video. Shout out to my father for sponsoring me, in more ways than one. And I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Well, you're welcome. Aw, that's adorable. That's adorable. Look at that. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that delicious video. Father's Day weekend, we're running right into it, so I hope that you guys are as ready as I am. All these awesome animals taking care of their kids, you know how it is. It's an unfortunate epidemic we've got over here of deadbeat fathers. Some of them don't have a choice, and some of them do. I can't imagine. Can't relate, can't imagine, don't want to. Love children, they're amazing. I never turn my back on one that I created. Can't really imagine the thought. I don't think anybody can. But, in any case, I digress. Hope you guys have an awesome Father's Day weekend. You know you're loved, appreciated, and you're gonna do amazing things. If you're a father, you probably already have. So go ahead and take advantage of it. Spend time with your youngins and enjoy every second. I am out.